But first tonight, we rely on banks to keep our money safe. But business owners who borrowed from one bank with a base here in the West say it did the opposite and ruined their lives. For years, they've been demanding action, and now they've got a powerful new champion. Steve Brodie reports.
We've come a long, long way together.
I can never forgive them for what they've done, never. This went far, far beyond a bank loan.
It's a very different picture of Lloyds Bank than the one in their latest advert.
I've just lost a whole lot, as if my legs and heart was removed.
Former customers have been fighting the bank and its agents for years, claiming they forced them into financial ruin. They want Avon Somerset police to investigate, but it's refused.
It is worrying that there are people out there who say that they have compelling evidence and it's not been followed up.
And now another force has offered to help, but that's been turned down. Why? Lloyds, in the heart of Bristol, home to the bank's business support unit, also known as the Recoveries Department. It's where business customers who are struggling end up when they get into difficulty paying back their loans. The teams in here pride themselves on saving failing companies with their expertise. But some of their customers say that's the last thing they were interested in doing. Alan Richards was an award-winning farmer in Wales. So, all this land here was in your family?
Yes, the first house was my father's, my sister's, then my uncle's house, and then my grandfather's house, and then my house.
So what have you lost here?
All the buildings, all the land, machinery just taken away from me and sold for peanuts, just so they could make their fees.
Alan's trouble started when he missed a payment on a loan he had with Lloyds. He says he wasn't aware he'd even missed it after believing he'd been offered further lending by the bank. But his account was then transferred to the bank's Recoveries Department in Bristol, where he continued to make payments on his loan under the direction of a new team. Two men turned up. What did they tell you?
They were my new bank managers, especially Jonathan Miles. And Jonathan sent me letters, emails signed as a Lloyds Bank manager.
In fact, Jonathan Miles was on a secondment to the bank from Bristol-based property consultants Alder, something Alan says was never explained to him. And later, Alder would be appointed by the bank to administer the forced sale of Alan's assets as his receiver. Alan thinks that was a massive undeclared conflict of interest. The business park was sold in 2011 for £472,000. That's 1/6 of its valuation 3 years earlier. And Alder charged £69,000 for 3 years' work. Alan's MP has called in Parliament for a criminal investigation.
Surely now is the time for the Serious Fraud Office to take action, to shine a spotlight on the allegations of criminality, collusion and corruption.
The Serious Fraud Office says there wasn't enough evidence to justify an investigation, but will review it if new information comes to light. These are strong allegations which Alder deny. Jonathan Miles declined to be interviewed, but his boss has asked us in. Jonathan Miles didn't declare that he was a partner at Alder, and instead he gave the impression that he was a Lloyds bank manager. What do you say to that?
No, that's not the case. From the initial meeting with Mr. Richards, which was on the second day of his secondment, it was made very, very clear by the senior manager at Lloyds, who was leading the meeting, that Jonathan was on secondment.
There's no evidence of that?
He was introduced at a meeting on that basis.
Well, we've only got his word for that. On his emails to these people, it's always Lloyds Bank. There is not a mention anywhere of Alder.
He was a full-time secondee, but it was bank policy if he was presented that way.
Surely that's a massive, massive conflict of interest. He was representing the bank. It was also representing Alder, who were being paid. How do you explain that?
Mr. Richards made an application for an injunction to the court to stop us selling. He made a number of allegations, including the one of conflict of interest. The court dismissed the application. It stated the claim was totally without merit.
Lloyds Bank told us Alan's claims are baseless and have been reviewed by a number of third parties, including the Financial Ombudsman Service. They added it was standard practice to have secondees in the bank. They're not in decision-making roles and don't manage customer relations. They added it's in their interest to get the maximum price achievable for any assets of the business. Alan is not satisfied and has asked for help elsewhere. Did you take your allegations to Avon Somerset Police?
Yes, I did, and I was interviewed, and the police officers came to see me in Cardiff.
And what did they do?
Nothing.
Avon and Somerset Police maintain there is no evidence of criminality in the way Alan was treated, so an investigation was not warranted. Another account that ended up in Lloyd's recoveries with a different case manager to Alan belonged to Carolyn Shires. In 2008, she had some land at Highfields Farm in Hampshire and planned to breed animals on it with the help of a mortgage from Lloyds. 3 years later, her life was thrown into disarray when her mum became ill with Alzheimer's.
She went from knowing me and being able to talk to me to not even knowing I was her daughter. So I had to totally care for her.
24 hours a day?
24 hours a day.
And this is obviously hugely distracting for you.
It was massively distracting.
She missed payments on the loan, and like Alan, her account was transferred to the Recoveries Department in Bristol. For 2 years, she fought to save her farm from being sold whilst caring for her mother.
The stress of Lloyds, on the top of it, it was just, words can't describe the stress that caused me. I can never forgive them for what they've done, never.
Right.
I've tried to keep it together, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. It's quite all right. Quite all right.
That's why I don't talk about it really, because this went far, far beyond the bank loan.
Highfields was valued in 2012 to be worth £500,000. It was sold 9 months later for £315,000. Lloyds told us Carolyn's business was poorly managed and it had provided support for her for many years, but it could not be saved.
We're walking now towards the modern dairy unit that's now been converted into a beef unit by the new owner.
So all this was you?
Yeah, absolutely right.
Terry King was also a Lloyds business customer. He used to have a dairy farm at Harptree in Somerset. After he lost everything, he complained to Avon and Somerset Police. 20 years on, he says he's still fighting for answers because the force weren't interested. You were so upset by this that you complained to the then IPCC.
Yeah, I complained to the Independent Police Complaints Commission and they upheld my complaint against Avon and Somerset Police.
And what did they tell the police force?
They told the police to reinvestigate.
And what happened?
Nothing.
Avon and Somerset Police say there is no evidence of criminal behaviour. But it's now come under pressure from the Police and Crime Commissioner of another force, Thames Valley. It made legal history last year when it prosecuted Halifax Bank of Scotland, which is now owned by Lloyds.
The bank denied a fraud had taken place for, I think, 11 years, in spite of the fact there have been internal emails within HBOS before Lloyds admitting that they knew about a fraud of at least 265 million.
Lloyds has said previously that it's determined to get to the bottom of what happened at HBOS, and it's appointed a judge to do that. Although the allegations are different and there's not been a police investigation into Lloyds' recoveries, he believes their expertise should now be used to review claims against the Bristol office.
Thames Valley have made 2 offers to Avon and Somerset. We're a much bigger police force. That has been turned down twice.
Lloyds told us Mr. Stansfeld's concerns have been thoroughly investigated by the bank and it's not found any evidence to support them. But the former business secretary, Sir Vince Cable, is concerned.
The banks have behaved very, very badly, collectively, some worse than others, and it does their reputation no good. But it is worrying that there are people out there who say that they have compelling evidence, and it's not been followed up.
Avon Somerset Police told us in a statement it had considered a number of allegations against Lloyds Recoveries, but had not found evidence of any criminal offences. This, they say, is supported by the National Crime Agency and the Serious Fraud Office. For many, like Carolyn and Alan, who've lost everything, they feel the law is simply not on their side.
I've just lost a whole lot, as if my legs and heart was removed.
I always thought that at some point somebody from Lloyds would actually turn around and say there's been a huge mistake.
Have you got a story for us to investigate? Do get in touch. You can email me at seb@bbc.co.uk or find us on Facebook and Twitter. And don't forget, you can catch up with last week's show on the BBC iPlayer.